Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Schneider. I'm your instructor for Chemistry 221 this fall. And I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome you to the course and to give you an opportunity to see who I am, since we won't be meeting face to face. And I'm the person that's going to be behind the voice that you'll hear in all our lectures and other course functions throughout the course of the term. So normally, I probably won't have my video on during a lecture just because my computer is needed to do other things that I'll be doing during a lecture, but sometimes I will. But I didn't want you to forget that I'm an actual human being on the other end. And I also would encourage you, if possible, to turn on your video during our live lecture sessions if you're attending. There's no requirement, you don't have to do that. It just sort of makes us feel more like an interactive live classroom as opposed to just something you're watching, kicking back wherever you happen to be. It makes us feel more like a community. You don't have to have your lecture on. It's just something that if you want to feel engaged and connected to the other students in the classroom, that's something very helpful. I realize I'm saying this right after I said I probably wouldn't have my video on during the lectures, but the reason I wouldn't necessarily have it on is because I need to have my computer doing some other things while we're having a lecture. So in this first video, I'd like to give you an overview of our online website, how to access the class lectures when they're live or recorded. And then we're going to take a look at how to register for and sort of get an overview of Mastering Chemistry, which is an online homework and quizzing program that you need to buy for the course. This will be the first in a series of videos that I'm going to send out to you that will give you some background information on the course and the course materials and what's going to happen to get you prepared for the lecture on Monday. So hopefully we'll have a great term. I know things are really kind of weird and it's a new experience for me. I've taught a remote course like this once before, but was a smaller class and I knew everybody. So we're a bunch of strangers all trying to get to know each other and have a shared experience online. And I think there'll probably be some stumbling blocks along the way. I hope you'll bear with me. I am not a media expert, so I'll probably make a few mistakes along the way here, but I think it will be a good time. We had a great experience in the spring, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to know as many of you as I possibly can. On that note, you're welcome to contact me via email at any time. During the week, I'm usually on email almost all the time. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Please feel free to ask me about any questions you might have about the course if these videos don't answer them. I'm going to try and be as complete as I can as I go through the course information. I hope that you will look at all these videos before the course starts. All this material that I'm going to go through in the videos, I really won't cover during the lecture part. I'd rather use that time to start talking about chemistry and getting into the real meat of the content. And I'll also have office hours. I'll discuss that in a little while too. And these will be a chance for you to just have a live conversation with me about what's going on with chemistry and the course. And so I'll also have office hours a number of different times over the course of the week that I'll tell you about later. And this will be a chance for you to have a Zoom session with me. I'll usually set it up right after a lecture or some other time. And you can just join in and then you can have an experience with me either with other students or just privately to talk about some issues you have with the course or whatever. And that'll be more of a one-on-one experience for you. In addition, you can also send me emails, and that is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you have a question or an issue that you need to deal with right away, I will almost always respond, usually the same day or the next day, depending on when I get the email. But I'm on email all week long and a little bit less frequently on the weekend, of course. But that is the best way to get a hold of me. If you call my office phone number, of course, I'm not really going to be there. So email is the quickest and best way to do it, or come to office hours. I want to encourage you to always talk to me if you have a question. If you don't understand a homework set, or if you need an extension in time because of an emergency that came up. I know things are crazy right now, so hopefully it won't be too weird over the course of the term, but the best way, the surest way to not run into trouble in the course is just to contact me, and do it as soon as you possibly can. Don't let something happen and then not get a hold of me for a few days, because then it's very hard to fix the situation after it's been sitting for a while. So as soon as you can, get a hold of me, let me know what's going on. I try to be as reasonable as I can for personal emergencies and things like that. So with that being said, let's go on and take a look at online lectures through the course website, which is through PCC's online learning system called Desire2Learn, or D2L. And so the next part of this is to go through how to log into D2L and find our course website. And then I'm going to give you a little survey of what's on the course website so you can get familiar with that. There's a variety of things on there. After that, I'll show you how to access the live lectures through these online rooms through this app called Zoom. And at the very end, we'll take a look at mastering chemistry. I'll show you how to register for that and how to get started in some of the assignments. So when we get to that part, if you could have the email that I sent you, in which you found the link to this video, there's an attachment that contains all sorts of written information. And at the very end of that will be the instructions for logging into and registering for mastering chemistry. So have that at the ready. But for now, let's go take a look at how to access D2L and the course website.
On mastering chemistry, I just wanted to give you one last little blurb of background about me to kind of put me into context for you. So again, my name is Jim Schneider, and I would prefer that you call me Jim or Mr. Schneider or Professor Schneider. Those are the preferred ways to address me in this class. So what about me? I was born in northern Wisconsin. You probably will pick up on that accent that I might have. And anyway, 20 years later, I still haven't lost it. But I grew up on a dairy farm. I am the youngest of a family of 8 children, believe it or not. Those dairy farmers had lots of kids. I earned an honorary certification in shoveling bullshit. So that's a lot of the job on a dairy farm. There's a lot of that going on. So I spent the first 18, 20 years of my life doing that kind of work. And then I went off to college, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So I moved to Portland in 1999 for this job at PCC. So out of the Midwest and to the West Coast. What did I do before I moved out here? My undergraduate degree is from the University of Wisconsin. One of their campuses is at a city called Eau Claire. That's my undergraduate. That was a campus about the size of University of Oregon. And the university system in Wisconsin is quite a bit larger than Oregon. There's more people in that state. And so there are, in addition to the main campus at Madison, there are a number of smaller campuses of about 10 to 12,000 students each. But anyway, while I was there, I got a major degree in physics. Chemistry was actually my minor, and I thought I was going to be a high school physics and chemistry teacher. So I also got a minor in secondary education, and I went out and taught high school for about 4 years. And I decided I don't think I was cut out to be a high school teacher for a variety of reasons. I think I was just too young. but it was a great learning experience. I actually had a lot of fun. But I wanted to get back into science, and I wanted to do some actual science. I wanted to do some research. And so I went to graduate school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus. That is a university that has about 40 to 50,000 students. So it's really quite large, and it's a wonderful experience. If you are at all thinking about going to graduate school, I highly recommend going to, if you can get into a big school. There's so much diversity. I know it's Wisconsin, but there's still quite a bit of diversity there. And it was a great experience. Graduate school is a fantastic experience. So I got a master's degree in material science and engineering. And so not a lot of people may be familiar with that, but I ended up with a job as a materials engineer. And that kind of job is using chemistry and physics, which I loved, to work on developing new materials. And so if you pay attention to science news these days, a lot of times you'll see that they're referring to new materials are being developed. And so we'll be talking about a little bit of that as we go throughout the class, just to kind of think about that. There's like the nanotechnology you might have heard about, just anything that the world is made out of. That's what material scientists work with. We try to engineer new and better things to make whatever our stuff out of. So it was a lot of fun. I worked for the U.S. Forest Service, believe it or not. They had a research lab in Madison, Wisconsin. It was called the Forest Products Laboratory. They invented plywood there in 1918 or something like that, I think it was, and a variety of other wood products. But when I worked there, I worked on a product where we were trying to take recycled plastic. So when I worked there, recycling was just really getting kicked off, and there was all this plastic people were collecting, and they really didn't know what to do with it. Because when you recycle plastic, it's degraded, and it does not become as useful as it was when it was made fresh from, unfortunately, oil. And there was this huge supply of waste plastic, and nobody knew what to do with it. So I worked on a project that tried to combine recycled plastic with cellulose fibers. Cellulose fibers are really any kind of plant fiber. We started out with wood, but we used all sorts of crazy things. Like we used recycled money from the US Mint they sent us, and mix that together with molten plastic, and you get what's called a composite material. And it's sort of adding the cellulose fibers into plastic stiffens it up and makes it stronger. But the plastic also retains its toughness. And so it's a composite of two different things. And so that was really a lot of fun. But in the mid-90s, the government downsized, and I was the low person on the hiring list there, the last one to be hired. So I was the first one to lose my job. And after that, I didn't really want to go work for a big corporation. Really wasn't into that. So I thought, well, I like teaching. I'll go back and see if I can teach college. And so I went back to graduate school again, and I got another master's from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I got a master's in chemistry. And after that, I did a few short teaching stints in the area, and then I was offered this job out in Portland, and so I moved out here. And in between all that, I had a lot of fun, did a lot of other interesting jobs. I worked in a pottery studio for a number of years, and I actually worked for the veterinary school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I did more shoveling of cow manure, amongst other things. I can tell you about some really interesting stuff. So just all sorts of, jobs, worked at a gas station. So just like any other college student, finding ways to support my education. But then I came out here, and it's been a great existence ever since. So that's where we are today. So that is a little bit about me and my background. I would love to hear about you someday in office hour. If you would feel comfortable telling me about you, what you're into, what you like to do. while you're going to school. It's just a nice way for us to get to know each other. It's not required. If you even wanted to send me an email and tell me a little bit about yourself, I would love to hear about you. It's going to be difficult for us to get to know each other remotely like this. And so maybe that'll help us to kind of be more familiar. I didn't really mention on here any of my hobbies, but you know, it's Portland. So all the great outdoor activities, that's what drew me out here. That's why I took this job. It's a beautiful place to live, and it will be as soon as the fires die down again. Yeah, you know, just insert standard outdoorsy Portlander, and you know, I would just fall right into that mold. Amongst other things, of course, love science and chemistry. So that's happening as well. Anyway, feel free to have a conversation if you're interested in talking, sort of on a casual basis. Anytime, I'd be happy to hear from you. The first thing we want to take a look at is how to access Desire2Learn D2L and find the course website. So the quickest and easiest way to get to D2L is to type in what I've got up here in the address bar on your web browser, which is online.pcc.edu. And when you type that in and just hit return, this page will come up. Sign into your D2L Brightspace account. You can also get there by looking at Myp Cc, as I'll show you in a little while. But this is really, if you just want to get to D2L, really the quickest way to get there. And I would just bookmark this page so you can come back very quickly. So you'll type in your username and password for PCC. It's the same one you use to log into Myp Cc, and then just hit sign in. So once your home page is loaded, this is the course that you're going to be looking for. Chem 221, Gen Chem 1, Fall 20. And just so it looks more like what you'll see, I'm going to switch my login to a student. And this is what you're going to see. And so this is sort of the landing page to find all the course materials that you're going to need. And the first thing we'll just kind of take a look at is here we are on the home page. You can kind of scroll down. There's some information up here. But every week down here, I'll put a new posting about announcements and any kind of updates and things like that that you'll see or need for that week. On the right-hand side is the calendar, and it lists the date and some upcoming events. You'll see that I've already created our online lectures. I haven't done the lectures, but I've created the online room for us to have them. And so normally you can click on any one of those if we're in a live lecture, and that'll take you to the link to get there. Other things you want to look at across the top are the content, and let's take a look at where that takes us. This contains all of the pages that you're going to need for the course. And so when you open it up, there'll be on the overview page, just some other information for you to think about. And then what you can do is you can look at, this is sort of like a table of contents over here on the left. For me, this is the easiest way to get where I want to go. You can also click on this table of contents, and that just sort of shows you all the same things, but a little bit more expanded out. As I'm making this video recording, I don't have everything completed on the website for Fall 20, so you can just ignore things that say like Fall 19. You don't need to look at that. All right, so what are some of the links over here? What are some of the pages within the course website? This is just, if you're wondering what you can do with your life, and maybe you're interested in chemistry, this is a really nice website from the American Chemical Society. That is a large professional society of chemists. It's actually the largest professional society in the world. Lots of chemists in America. So you should check this out. Like, what would you do if you got a chemistry degree? There's interviews with practicing chemists in all sorts of interesting fields. And so maybe that will give you some sort of spark of something to think about doing with your life. The other links are, you can get a copy of the syllabus by taking this link. Here's some mastering chemistry instructions. That'll be the last part of this video today. I'll talk more about Logger Pro. That's a free graphing program that we're going to use in this class that you can download. And so if you want to go in there and download that to your computer right away, you can. We're going to be using that in lab. I'll come back to these chem activity answer keys, but when we do those activities in small groups during lecture, we'll be working out of the workbook, the guided inquiry workbook that you are required to purchase for the course. There is an alternative text that's online that I actually like really well. The textbook author's name is Averill. And so I have posted the first 6 chapters. These pertains to most of the things we're going to be talking about in this course. I have not plagiarized this. This is open access. So this is published online for anybody to have access to. So it's really well written. It gives you some other insight compared to what our actual textbook author that's required for this course does. It's always good to have a couple points of view, a couple different experiences. And so I just really like this text. And I think if you want to read it, you just click on this link and it'll download or open up a PDF version of the text. And you can kind of scroll through and read it. Some really nice illustrations and things like that in here. So one thing I do want to talk about is that there's a lot of information on the internet, and a lot of it, probably most of it, is garbage. So I have tried to provide you as much as I can what I would call curated information for you, good textbooks, good videos, and things like that. And I think that you should, if you have kind of questions, come to this D2L website to look for some of that help, or ask me before you just trust some really kind of crappy, you have a question and you type it in and you get all these people answering, and most of the time they're just wrong. So you should always check your sources is what I'm trying to say. And if you have a site that you like and you're interested in it, send me a link to it and I can check it out and tell you whether it's reputable. All right, so we've looked at the alternative text, and as we look down here a little bit further, there's just some other links at the bottom that I want you just to check out on your own. I did put Khan Academy up there. Everybody loves that site. But there's just some other things in there that you can take a look at. But the most important thing for you is here where it says week 1. And each week, there will be another page opened up that I'm creating. And so next week, there'll be week 2. But let's go and take a look at week number 1. And you can kind of look up here and see what all the different things are that I've posted. So this nomenclature thing, I'll talk about that in another video. That's something that you're going to have to be responsible for, knowing the names and formulas for different ions and compounds. Hopefully that it will be a review for you. But at the last part of the video, I've done mastering chemistry information, but I'll just repost anything here. Almost anything that we do in class will get posted on that week's web page on D2L. So if you missed a handout or you missed some lecture notes or things like that, you should be able to come to D2L and find it. And if you can't, just let me know. Like I said, this is a little bit of a new experience doing the online thing, so sometimes I might forget something, but I'm certainly glad to listen to you and post things on this website. There's a section for notes, and so when I get the first lecture notes ready, I usually email them out to everybody. In addition, I also post them up here on the D2L page. And so what I mean by notes is some of the lecturing that I do is using PowerPoint slides in addition to other things. And so I'll make a PDF file of those and post them here. So, and that'll usually be before lecture. And so it's not a bad idea to have those notes ready with you as you sit through the live lecture so that you can pay a little bit more attention to what's going on as opposed to frantically trying to just take notes in your notebook. I think taking good notes is a hard skill to learn how to do. So this is meant to help you be able to focus better on listening as opposed to writing things down frantically. So there's some laboratory information here, and we're going to come back to that when I send a video later about what's going to happen in lab. And so I'm not going to discuss that right now. So if there is information that you need to have here, this is where it's going to be every week. And then oftentimes if there's other interesting links that are related to what we're talking about that particular week, I'll put them down here. And so there might be other information in here as well. So that's sort of the main thing for you to come to, is to go to D2L, click on the week that we have that we're currently in, and look for the course notes or any other kind of handouts. I'll be posting the homework assignments up here as well. So everything will kind of be found inside this content page for that week. Before I go to the lecture and lab Zoom meeting rooms, I just want to look at a couple of the other things in D2L. So there is a link to Mastering Chemistry. It would pop open to the other page, to a new web page. And this is where you would normally want to go to log into Mastering Chemistry. And the last part of this video, I explained that in a little bit more detail. But it's not a bad idea to bookmark this particular page, and then you don't have to go to D2L all the time if you want to work on Mastering Chemistry. Assignments. There's nothing in here right now, but when it's time for you to turn in a homework assignment or a lab report, that's all going to show up here under this assignment link. And I'll go through in a later video just how I want you to upload your written assignments through D2L. So there'll be links on here for you to upload assignments. You're going to need to upload them as a PDF file or a Microsoft Word file. And then they're going to show up here for me to grade them. And then your grade, in addition to showing up here for you, will actually be on this page. So I'm a student. I haven't done anything yet. So there aren't any grades. There aren't any assignments yet. But this is where you'll come to find your grades for the assignments that you've turned in through D2L. And like I said, I'll be talking more about that a little bit later on. You can take a look at all the people that are registered for this course. And if you want, you can email them. And you just click on their name and so forth. So it's kind of a way, if you have somebody you know in class or somebody you met online in class here, you can get a hold of them this way through D2L. And then, of course, there's the help page. And this is really helpful. There's the student help desk. And so if you have questions or you're having trouble with this website, you can go to the student help desk. You can certainly, the best way to do it is to either email them or call them. They'll answer the phone, even though the campus is closed. So there's all sorts of support for D2L, and there's information on Zoom web conferencing. That's the thing that you're going to use, as I'll show you in a minute, to access the online lectures. There's a lot of really good information on this D2L help page. There's the start guide for online learning. So kind of what I'm talking about right here. You can take a look at this, and this is a really nice help page that they've started. It gives you lots of information about how to work online in our new weird remote learning situation. So this D2L help page has just got all sorts of really great, helpful information to help you succeed. And then, of course, there are other links on here that may be of interest to you. So a great page to bookmark as well. But that was under help on D2L. If you're still having trouble with D2L, there's a bunch of quick start videos that you can look at, but I think I'm going to try and go through most of the stuff here today. All right, so let's say it's time for lecture. on Monday, how are you going to get to that lecture? I'm sorry about that. And so when I clicked on lecture and lab meetings over here, you can see Monday, September 21st at 11 a.m., there's going to be a lecture. And you might not see all of these other things because I think it still thinks I'm an instructor, so you won't be able to start the meeting or anything like that. But you should be able to click on the lecture and then it'll pop open and you'll be able to join. So I'm going to be recording the lectures. And so you have to make sure you're okay with that because I have another section that is asynchronous that is going to watch the lectures without coming to our class. And by the way, I strongly recommend you attending live lectures. It's just helpful for you to be able to ask questions or just sort of be there in the moment, get immediate feedback. But if you can't make it, just remember that you can always go back and look at the live recording. And they're not going to be found here on cloud recordings. After I record the lecture, and once it's processed later that day, you will find the recorded lecture back under the content tab. So you would say for Monday's lecture, that is going to show up down here under notes. There'll be a link there that says Monday's lecture. You can click on it and the hour and 50 minutes of lecture will be recorded just in a regular video that you can just watch at your own pace. And so it's actually going to be really nice for you to be able to come back and review things that happened if necessary. And those will always be left up there. So now if I go back here and I click on this link, it would take me to the Zoom client. And basically, when you click on it, Zoom will probably ask you to download a little app, and you should do that and download it. That will allow you to be able to get into the lecture and lab meetings. Now, if you only have a phone or something like that, it isn't going to work. And so when you open this up, let's see what happens if it does it. No, it's going to look at it as I'm an instructor. So anyway, when you click on that, it'll give you an option to join via a web browser. So on your phone, you would just click that option. You wouldn't try to join using the Zoom app. That would open automatically. So the first time you try this, it'll ask to install some software and just click OK. And then every time you click on it after that, it'll just sort of magically open up. All right. So let's take a look at what would happen. So I opened a meeting a little bit earlier and then I logged in under somebody who isn't me. I called myself Joe Chemistry. And I went to, I said, I want to join via the web browser. All right, and this is what it's going to look like. So you would want to join by computer audio. I am not going to join by audio just because I'm using my audio to do something else right now, which is talk to you. But I guess it wants me to join by, we'll see what happens. So once you join, this is going to be the screen that you're going to see. It's going to be whatever I am sharing with you. Down here at the bottom are the controls for you. They're going to look different than what I have. You're limited. You can look at the participants. There I am, Joe Chemistry. And that is my other me. That's the host. I don't want to keep looking at that. Click out of that. You can chat. So you can send a message to everyone. Type it down there. Gee, this is so fun. And it shows up, and that's kind of a way to communicate. It depends on how I enable chat for the class. You probably won't be able to chat with other students because I need you to focus on what's going on in the lecture, but you'll be able to send questions and things like that in the chat as well. So that's the chat function. Let's leave chat. You can leave it on or off if you want. But many times here under the participants, there are some things that you can do to signal to me. A lot of times I'll ask you if, for example, are you done working on this question? And it says, I'll say, raise your hand. And so when I see the list of all the class participants that day, this kind of gives me feedback. Raising your little hand there allows me to know that you're finished or something like that. And you can put other stuff in there, yes or no, and whatever. So sometimes that's a way to signal to me that you might have a question. I do encourage you to ask questions during the lecture. I'll usually have the chat on. And so if I am talking about something, you might have a question. You know, just my experience and the one time I did this last spring, sometimes students would have a question as I'm going through something, and then other students would answer it for them. And so that's actually kind of nice, because then I don't have to break my rhythm for what I'm doing in here. But if you do have a question during a lecture, you can politely, you know, raise your hand or just turn your microphone on and ask a question. Sometimes I'll ask for your feedback. And then other times you can post it on the group chat, and then I'll be able to monitor that and see that. And sometimes I can get to those questions right away. So that's a good thing to do. Kind of have fun with that. Now it says you can share your screen, and you may or may not be able to share the screen that on your computer with everybody else, depending on if I have that enabled on my end or not. Probably not. And then you can look over here. You know, that's not good. You can just ignore that. So those are really kind of the main controls. When you join the meeting, down here at the lower left, you should automatically be muted. And that's really the way you should stay unless you want to talk and say something. You can start the video if you want to, show just a picture of yourself sitting there watching a lecture or doing whatever you're doing. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of nice for all of us to see each other, get to know each other as if we were in a real classroom. So I highly recommend that. And then you can click on unmute. And so there are options here to test your microphone and things like that or whatever, but it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of come on in. When you take that link from D2L, and it'll open up either the app from Zoom if you happen to have a computer, or you can go to the web version of it, the web browser, if you happen to have, or if you only are using your phone or something like that. Okay, so let's go back to D2L. I should say also that the main thing here is that this is where you're going to see whatever I'm presenting in lecture. So this is kind of like your viewing screen. So the PowerPoint notes, or me writing things on a whiteboard, or watching a video, or whatever it is we're going to do, that's all going to show up here. And I am recording the video at this time. And so, like I said, at the end of the class, that will all be saved. You can see up here that it shows me recording with that little red dot. So a couple last things to talk about. Let's go to the Myp Cc Home Page. So you would go to mypcc.edu and sign in. And you've all registered, so you've probably been here before. And I just wanted to make you have a note that you can go down here on the left where I'm highlighting, where it says PCC Sites D2L Brightspace Login. That's another way to get to D2L. There's also this new tab up here that says Virtual Help. And there is just all sorts of information for you to go to. And information desk, you can set up kind of do a Zoom appointment with somebody. But you can kind of check all of this stuff out. There's lots of good student support here. Counseling, tutoring, all this other kind of stuff to help you succeed. PCC is giving you links to how to find out information about that. student life, all those other kind of things. And then there's some Zoom tips. Here it tells you how to get connected from an iPhone or Android device. But this is kind of a first place to go if you're having trouble with anything with technology related to doing an online class. And the other place are these help desks. The student help desk and the IT instructional technology help desk. But mainly for you, this is the place to go, the student help desk, if you're having any kind of issues. So let's go take a look at how to do mastering chemistry. I hope you're still awake. Sorry this video is taking so long, but we're just kind of running through to get everybody up to speed so there aren't too many speed bumps on the road when we hit the class on Monday. I just wanted to have you take a quick look at the other handout that or attachment that I sent you in the email. It just has some links and some other information for you to read about getting ready for Chem 221 lecture and lab. And you can kind of read this at your leisure. But it does have some information about what you'll need to be successful and be able to participate in the course, and some of the things that are helpful to make you be successful, and also some assistance that you can get from PCC on many of these things. So teaching remotely is sort of a new thing, but we've been doing online courses for a while here at PCC, not as many in chemistry. I have never taught an online course, a fully online course before. But so there is experience and things that we have all learned that you might want to take a look at. And in fact, there's this great little video from a math instructor, not very long, but some things very casually telling you about how to help you succeed. In this video, we're going to learn how to register and use mastering chemistry and some of the text and related things that come along with that. So let's get started. You should get that file that I sent to you as an attachment to my welcome email. It says the Chem 221 Get Started Info Packet, and it looks like this. So let's go, when you get that open, what you can do is just scroll all the way to the back. We'll talk about the other information in here at a different video. But let's take a pause here where it says homework number 1. So I'll talk a little bit more about this, but usually this is what a homework sheet will look like every week that I'll be sending out to you, and I'll have all the details about what's due, what to read, and when things are due. So one of the things down here is you notice it says there's mastering chemistry in number 3. And we have to go learn how to register for and use mastering chemistry. So in order to do that, you want to go to the very last page in this packet. And here it says student registration instructions. So in order to do that, I'm just going to kind of walk you through that. One thing that you need to for sure remember or write down or come back and look at is this instructor's course ID. For this particular course, it's this right here, Schneider 71894. In order to get to the website, you will want to take this link. You can click on it in the PDF file like I'm doing here. There's also a link at the top of the D2L page that says Mastering Chemistry, and you can take that link too. If you forget this link, I recommend putting a bookmark in your browser right now so that you have it at all times. If you just do like a Google search for Mastering Chemistry, it'll give you the wrong login page. There's actually another version of Mastering Chemistry that we do not have subscribed to for this course, and that one just says masteringchemistry.com. Don't use that one. Use this one. So you'll come to this sort of landing page, and what you want to do is register as a student. So make sure you have your email address. You'll need your PCC email address. That's all you need. There's no other student ID. We don't want you to enter that. You need your course instructor ID. That's that Schneider blank, 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 blank number that I talked about before. That's this thing right here. And then you can go ahead and register. You'll need to either use a credit card, or if you have PayPal, you need to register and pay at the same time, unless you're not sure that this is the course for you, in which case you can get a free 14-day access, trial access. And so you can have access and register for 14 days to get in here and look at it and do some of the assignments. But at the end of those 14 days, they're going to ask you to pay. If you don't pay, then you will lose access to Mastering Chemistry. So if you get in here and do the 14-day free access, then you just forget to register, you are going to lose access to Mastering Chemistry. And then you start to fall behind. If you can go in and register after that, and it'll save your work, but it's important to make sure that you take care of that, either drop the course or pay by those 14 days if you are unsure if you're going to be in the class. You would just hit OK, register now. I have to warn you, sometimes the site can be kind of slow. You can imagine there are lots and lots of students using it. So the first thing you need to do is to type in that course ID, and that's it right here. It looks like I've tried to get in here before. And then you just check that that's the right course, and this is what you're looking for. Now, you may have already used Mastering Chemistry if you took Chem 151 at certain campuses, but for most of you, you probably haven't. You need to create an account. And here it asks you to put all this information in, and the cookies on my browser think I'm already here. So anyway, I'm not going to register. I think you guys are savvy enough to be able to do all this yourself, but when it goes to create an account, wouldn't hurt to click this "I do not wish to receive information" one. But when you hit the create account, it's going to ask you for your payment information. So what I want to do is, once that's done, now I want to go back and take a look at to see if I can actually log in. So here's just the other information that you can just go back and look at. And here it talks about the temporary access. So I'm going to go back to the login page, and I'll register with my student account. And so when you get here, it'll have you list all the courses that you have. You probably only have Mastering Chemistry. For this class, make sure you're in the right course. All right, so this is the course homepage. It's got some little prompts here for you. You can see what assignments are coming up in the near future. You can look at assignments that are past due that you didn't complete. Nothing yet for me. It lists upcoming assignments. I'll go through this in detail in a minute. And then once you've started completing assignments, you can go down here and look. Looks like I already did one. So that's just sort of this will be a changing homepage for you as you complete and as new assignments are listed. So let's take a look at under the assignments. This is where you can always go as we do more and more assignments over the course of the term. They'll continue to be listed down here. All right, so one of the things here is that you can see that there are a variety of different types of assignments. They're kind of indicated by the little notation here at the front, this little circle or a little flame, a book, an orange square. We'll talk about what each one of those are and how to do this in just a minute, but let me just finish the overview here of Mastering Chemistry. You can look at your scores. Looks like I did one and I got 100%. And as you complete more, your scores are for each assignment will show up here. There's different categories of work that you're going to do in Mastering Chemistry, and you can look at all of them at once, or you can break it down and say, I only want to see my quiz scores or whatever. So you can look at these. Here it says course final grade computation. Just ignore that for now. We'll come back to that later in the term. So here we're going to be doing dynamic study modules every week. There will be some regular homework. You'll have quizzes to do. There's some readings. I'll talk about that you can look at. Then there's the exam. As I'll talk about later in class, part of your exam will be on Mastering Chemistry, just because we're doing everything in this class remotely this term. And the other thing I want to point out to you is the e-text. This is really, it's really nice. So you take this link and it gives you another link to go take the electronic version of the textbook. It's a nice text. That's one of the reasons that we also got Mastering Chemistry. I have met and talked to the author a number of times. He's very enthusiastic. I think he does a really nice job with the text. So I'm going to go back to the contents. When you first open this up, this is where you would land at the contents here, and you can see that all the different chapters, everything you would see in the normal written text is right here in the table of contents. And so when we'll take a look at this in more detail in a minute when I show you the assigned readings, but it's pretty nice. It's got a lot of little things that you can do that you can't do with a regular text. You can go back and look at, here are the things that I was looking at before. You can make notes if you want to with different sections of the text, and where you make your note will be tied to the section that you're looking at. And then there are some study resources that they've generated to help you do this, and just some other terms and things like that. So check that out. Lots of good stuff in there to take a look at. That's the e-text. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's take a look at these assignments. So you can always look on here for assignments. Here's their due dates and the time that they're due, and it gives you how many questions there might be and how long it might take you to do it. So it's a good way to budget your time. But I would go back and take a look at the homework sheet that you're given, as I've broken down those assignments in a little bit more detail. Let me scroll back. So the first thing I want to point you out to is that it's helpful to read the text before you get started. And in the past, I just wrote everything down, and students could go to the text and try and find it. But now a new feature is that I can actually link those sections of the text into Mastering Chemistry, and so you can click on a link and go directly there. So let's take a look at that. So there is some stuff. This is like the Chem 151 review, and then this is sort of the new material we're going to be covering. So if I go back to Mastering Chemistry, and let's say I'm a little bit unsure about what I did or didn't learn in my previous chemistry class, I can go here. Oh, forget about that. That won't show up for you because I was fooling around with the program earlier. But here we are. I said, hey, if you're going to read this, we're going to cover this material by October 2nd. So get it done by then. Readings are not graded. Do them, don't do them. It doesn't affect your grade. It's here to help you find things in particular that you need to review and read about when it's new material. Let's say you forgot how to do converting between units. Take that link and it'll bring you to the e-text, specifically that page. So there you go. A really quick and easy way to get to where you want to go to in the readings. So here there's the next one about atoms, and that is related to these sections 1 through 7 and then 8 through 10. So let's actually go in and take a look at one of those. Let's look at section 1.8, and I'll show you what these examples and for practice assignments were. All right, so this is really, really nice feature of this electronic text, and that is that your textbook author has recorded many videos that are really well produced, I think, and also more and more coming all the time. So here's a key concept video.
Hello and welcome back. In this video, we'll examine the particles that compose atoms, and we'll learn how to symbolically represent atoms based on those particles.
So you can, take a look at those. I think it's a really great way. They've got really nice animations, professionally done. Worth it. But here's the reading. These little red sections will link you to a different section of the text if you need to go back and review. There's a little info thing that gives you a definition if you forgot about what it was. Nice pictures. But when we keep scrolling down, here you can see there's examples. And so here you notice in the homework set, I said you should take a look at example 1.3. Hey, here it is. The way these examples work is that he'll go and do a couple problems for you. Here's a couple questions, then here's how to work through it. So once you've watched the solution being modeled, then at the end there's always these for practice, which gives you a chance to try and answer a similar kind of question without the answer being directly given. There are answers to the for practice type exercises, and they're at the very end of the text. So you would just go to the end of the text and look for the particular number of the for practice exercise to see how you did. In addition to concept videos, he also has these interactive worked examples where now we're going to do a problem that requires something like what you might have done up here. In fact, I think he actually, in this case, works through this question on the video. So if you're a little more visual in your learning, you like to watch somebody do something, then go down here and look at that video. They're all only a couple of minutes long. Super helpful. Students have said in the past that they really like them. And then sometimes there are little multiple choice concept tests. Read the question. Oh, got it wrong. There's some feedback. Try again. I'm just randomly guessing. Hey, got it correct. Okay. So you can search for things in the text. You can make a bookmark. You can change the size of the text. You can change the background. All sorts of great things that you can do with the text. So you can click on that you read this and completed it. It just is good feedback for me as an instructor to see how students are utilizing the course materials. And it just helps to encourage you to do some reading as well. So those are the readings, and I'm going to hopefully remember to be putting those in every week. We have an assignment. Let's take a look at some of the other things on the Mastering Chemistry part of the first assignment. The very first thing you should be doing once you register for Mastering Chem is to do the Introduction to Mastering Chemistry assignment. And that is this assignment right here. That's going to take you through how to use the program. So it's training. It doesn't really take that long to do, but it talks about all the different kinds of questions and how they're scored and things like that. So you need to work through that before you get started. That's the very first thing you need to do. And if we go back, the first other assignment that you need to do that's actually related to course material is this one called Compounds Fall 19. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So there's all sorts of information, how many items you have to do, how much time it will take. The grading policy, you can click on at any time to see how things are scored. You should take a read there. Notice that to encourage you to learn from your mistakes, you can actually get up to 6 tries to get a question correct. You lose a little bit of credit for each one that you don't get right because we just don't want you clicking through and guessing until you find the right answer. So there is some penalty for random guessing, but you don't completely lose the whole credit. Now, the first thing that you need to do is to click on the academic integrity policy. And this is something that all students should read. whenever you register for a course. And the reason is that you're responsible for understanding what your rights and responsibilities as a student are. And when you register for a course, you've actually already implicitly agreed to all of these policies, the academic integrity especially, and your conduct policy. So this is like when you download software and you get that end user license agreement that nobody ever reads. This is one that you should actually read. Anyway, just click accept down here. I've already done it, so it's grayed out, but that's the first question. Then you just move on to the next one. How do you move around a Mastering Chemistry assignment? You can click in the upper right, say, hey, let's go to the next question. If you don't like that question and you want to go back to the list, you can click up here, and that will take you back to the list of assignments. Now, one thing I want to tell you about, and I've listed it on the homework sheet, is that not all of the questions I assigned are for credit. Only the first set in sequential order are for credit, and it says here only the first 22. The rest are for extra credit. And so once you roll down here, you'll see that there's a bunch of extra credit problems for extra practice. And you can do those in any order if you like to. But you should always do all the homework problems before attempting the extra credit. So let's take a look at one of these problems just to kind of give you an idea what they're going to be like. I'm just going to kind of choose this one, Ionic Compounds. And one thing I just want to show you is inside of a question there are study aids to help you. One of these is to say, well, I just kind of forgot about ionic compounds. I want to review it. And this will just open the text randomly, but you can also, if you wanted to, search in here ionic compounds and see where that gets you. So it kind of tells you where they are, brings up some part of the text. If you click on that, it'll take you right to that section of the text. It's pretty cool. There you go. Sorry. Anyway, you can check that out. Other things that are helpful when you're doing problems are some of the constants and conversion factors. So that's always available when you do Mastering Chemistry from your textbook. And then if you need to get a periodic table, there it is. Boom. Just click on one of those and it just sort of gives you a little enlarged view. Now, the thing you're probably going to use the most are the hints. So in a problem, and this is one of the reasons why we chose Mastering Chemistry many years ago as a student learning tool, and students always mention in the course evaluations that they like Mastering Chemistry. It was very helpful to them. And part of the reason is because we've got these hints. So you're doing this problem, you don't know how to answer it, you kind of forgot. You're sort of there, but you could just use a little bit of help. So they give you these hints, and sometimes there'll be many, and sometimes there'll be few, and sometimes you have to do them in order, and you have to do one before you can do the next, and so on. But in this case, let's say I click on the first hint. It just gives you some information. Maybe that was enough. If not, take another hint. Sometimes hints have questions within them. Dope. Okay. Gives you some feedback and so on. And you can sometimes pick any hint that you want. And hopefully that will help you to answer this question. There's no penalty for taking a hint. On the contrary, I encourage you to take hints. That's why, like I said, we chose this program to kind of give you a built-in tutor. And it's for the most part, it's a pretty good program. Yeah, so take the hints. It's to your benefit. So if we go back to the assignments now, once you've got an assignment done, it'll show up under completed assignments, and then you'll be able to go under scores here and look at the scores. You'll see the score as well after you do the assignment, but this will just list all the different scores that you have. All right, so let's go back to assignments. The other one that I wanted to show you is that, unfortunately, as a student, I ran through the example quiz already, but I can just show you what that would look like, and I think that you can figure it out for yourself. But I'll talk more about it as the course nears that point. So we'll have our first quiz in week 2 at the end of week 2, and that quiz is going to be on mastering chemistry. This example quiz, which unfortunately I can't show you right now, but if you click on that, and it's not worth any points, it's just to kind of show you what a quiz is going to look like, what the scenario will look like. You can click on that. It's got some just random questions on there. You don't have to answer them. It's just for you to look at. But basically what will happen is there will be a timer, and for the amount of time that I've allotted for any particular quiz, it'll be listed at the top. And when you start, there's no stopping it. So you have to be sure that you're ready. You've got your drink there waiting for you, and you're all set to go. You've studied. Granted, you know, this is an online open kind of quiz, but I've only made the time such that you can't really cheat, in the sense that if you don't study, you're not going to do well on the quiz. So you definitely need to study for the quizzes. And basically, once you start, you have to go through and finish. If something happens, you lose your connection, you've got some sort of emergency and you had to leave, what you need to do is to email me immediately as soon as you can, so that I can deal with the situation and we can figure out a way for you to either retake it or some other option for the quiz. But just remember, if anything ever goes wrong in mastering chemistry, you get frustrated or something happens, the first thing you should do is email me as soon as possible. Don't just forget about it and then a couple days later say, I missed that assignment because this and this and this happened. Email me immediately. I've been working with the program for a long time, many years now, and I have access to some of the representatives from Pearson as well. And so we'll usually figure it out. It's usually just some small thing, some glitch. And so, again, if you get frustrated, instead of getting really angry at the program, just quit and come back to it later and email me, and I will help you solve the problem. I don't want you to get frustrated by using technology. That's not the goal. The goal is to help you to learn. And so, like I said, instead of trying to solve a problem and wasting your life for 20, 30 minutes or whatever, we all know how it is with computers. Just stop and email me. And if it's something that you're close to the deadline, I'm just very happy to extend it for you individually if it's a valid excuse for why things kind of broke down or you had an emergency. Don't just leave things hanging. I'm more interested in you learning from the assignments than I am making sure that, all or nothing, you essentially meet this deadline for homework, number 2. That being said, I just can't be granting 72 students homework extensions every week. So I expect you to get things done on time. This is only for emergencies that I'm willing to talk to you about granting extensions. All right, so there's one last part of this, and that is these dynamic study modules, as you see down here. And it says for the dynamic study module, see the next page for a list of the dynamic study modules, which I'm going to call DSM. You'll notice that they're on the next page, as we'll take a look at in a second, but I just also wanted to point out to you that in the homework sheet it lists here the date and time that those homework sets are due. So these first 2 are due by the next Wednesday of week 2, by the beginning of lecture on Wednesday. That's to kind of help you be prepared for that lecture. But you'll see the dynamic study modules are due on Friday at midnight. Why is that? And the reason is because these are meant to help you prepare for the quiz that week. And you'll see that down here, the quiz on Mastering Chemistry, as I just mentioned. They're always going to be available after the Wednesday lecture, and you have through the next Friday, upcoming Friday, 2 days away at midnight to take and complete that quiz. That means you can take it at your leisure whenever you want. But like I said, once you start, that's it. You have to finish it in that time span. So it gives you like a 2.5-day window or so to kind of get in there and take the quiz whenever you have time available. So you should just remember that there is going to be a quiz every week, almost, except for when we have an exam. So here are the dynamic study modules. You notice they always have this little torch symbol next to them. On this page, it just says the ones that are due on Friday, October 2nd. There's 4 of them you need to complete. I have to tell you, as I'm recording this now, before the term, Mastering Chemistry, they were doing some revisions and updates, and so still kind of working on this last one down here, and I don't have the time that it would take you approximately to do that assignment. So at the moment, this is still kind of left blank, and hopefully that'll be fixed by the time class starts, but we'll see. Regardless, the first one that you should do is the Intro to DSMs, how dynamic study modules work. So let's go to Mastering Chemistry and take a look at that. That's this first one. Now, I will say something about dynamic study modules. I'm very excited about them because they're a little bit different than what you might be used to. So in this, they're not just like a homework problem with hints. They're actually based on some learning theory that people have done, researched in the last couple decades here, about how human beings learn best. Turns out me lecturing to you like I've been doing for the last half hour is the least efficient way to learn, even though we're all really comfortable with it. I don't know, can you remember what I said 25 minutes ago? Probably not. It's because you didn't put it into practice. You were just watching and listening. But on the first question, it'll actually do a little bit of a description. Like I said, I've been playing around with this, so this is kind of taking me to where I left off last time. But there's a page that you can link to, or that it links to, that describes in more detail just how these dynamic study modules sort of work and what learning theory they're based upon. And I will tell you, in the last about 2 years that I've been using these and incorporating them more and more into the class, they have gotten the best response from students. Students really like these. I'm not just lying to you. I don't assign busy work. I try to make things to help you to learn the concepts. So here we are in college, learning college chemistry. High school's over, so to speak. And so I really want you to learn the material because it'll get tougher as time goes on, and it's beneficial. Let's use about how humans learn to make your learning more efficient and effective, and that's what these dynamic study modules will do. I just have had many students ask me for more of these. I don't create these, unfortunately, and so there's only a limited number I can give, but just the feedback's been great. So I just want to give you that sort of like a sign of encouragement that these are pretty worthwhile things. So anyway, you kind of work your way through these. The first, things that it is going to do is sort of survey your knowledge. So this is learning how they work. It says, what questions are contained in around, how the hell do you know? You don't know. So that's what it's doing. It's trying to give you an example of what it would be like if you actually did a real question about a chemistry concept. And so you'd be like, I don't know, I'm going to guess. And so when you click on there, it says, oh, well, now it's going to ask you how confident are you about that answer. So see, what it's doing is taking the answer that you chose, whether it's right or wrong, and how confident you felt about that answer. And there's an algorithm. It's called, they use artificial intelligence, actually. It's one of the first sort of artificial intelligence computer machine learning things that is commercially available. They're going to use that and the results of doing this many times over many questions to later, there's a section where it's going to direct particular questions at you along with some feedback and information to help you learn that material, targeted on what you don't know. And then it will ask you more questions. And after you've been able to answer questions correctly, it assumes that you have mastered that concept and you can move on. So if you blow through these and answer all the questions correctly the first time and are very confident, you'll get done in a very short period of time. But if you have trouble with certain concepts, it'll go back and it gives you information. Sometimes there's videos and everything to help you learn that material. It's really, I'm very impressed by the program. All right, so once you do that, then you go through and work through these other dynamic study modules. And the first few that I'll have listed are going to be just review of your prep chem material to help you be prepared for the more difficult new things that we're going to encounter in this course. And so there might be another one showing up here that I listed on there that wasn't quite ready yet. But anyway, this is where you'll see them. And this will always list the ones that are going to be actually on or actually due as an assignment. So that's it for Mastering Chemistry. You can get started as soon as you like. And remember, the first things you have to do are as listed on here. You should make sure you go through and do the Introduction to Mastering Chemistry and also the Dynamic Study module, how that works. Do those first. One other thing you need to do is once you get the syllabus in this packet, as I've talked about, I want you to make sure that you read it. It's all important information, believe it or not. And there's a syllabus worksheet, a questionnaire that you need to complete on Mastering Chemistry, which is due, actually these first two here are due right away in the term, because I want you to learn how to use the program before you do anything else.